Every tale begins somewhere, and this one kicks off with the chime of a doorbell at a lively house party. But this isn't your run-of-the-mill get-together. Far from it. Conversations here swirl around film options, distribution deals, story development, and screenwriting. Many faces in the room would be instantly recognizable to the average viewer. The rest? They're the minds behind the fame, the creators and producers fueling the entertainment industry's biggest names. No doubt, this is no everyday event in a typical residence. It's a Hollywood soiree. The guest list is stacked with influential names from the movie business, all gathered in a lavish condo, nestled in a prestigious neighborhood. Some of them once led modest lives, but now everyone here is comfortably wealthy. Most attendees are major players in the fiercely competitive world of film and television. Their lives are wrapped in a bubble of luxury, brimming with opulence and ease. Ordinary folks can barely comprehend what it's like to live in such circles, to bask in the daily indulgences these elites enjoy. They reside at society's pinnacle, miles above the struggles of the everyday crowd. But that shimmering bubble is on the verge of popping, signaled by the sound of that doorbell, lights, camera. Seth Harwood, being nearest the door, heard the bell and called out, "I've got it," as he stumbled toward the window for a hazy peek. There was a security camera trained on the front step, but nobody was watching the footage. Had someone been paying attention, they'd have noticed a shadowy figure trailing the man who stood at the entrance. But the host had dismissed all hired help for the night, leaving only Carmine and his invited company. Most guests were mildly intoxicated, blissfully unaware of the chaos about to unfold. Seth Harwood, the actor who answered the door, was no exception. Turning back, he announced, "Hey, Terry just showed up. Can somebody let Carmine know that Terry Schultz is here?" he added, as he clumsily made his way up the short staircase to the main level, the visitors trailing just behind. Seth, fogged by drink, didn't catch sight of the second man slipping in behind Terry, nor did he notice the faint streaks of blood trailing down Terry's cheek. Terry's eyes were glassy and unfocused, and with good reason. Moments before ringing the bell, he'd been hit on the head with a gun. The intruder secured the door behind them, then nudged Terry up the stairs. Terry climbed shakily, his legs unsteady. A scream sat frozen in his throat. He could feel the cold steel of the handgun pressing firmly into his spine. The moment he reached the top step, the man behind him shoved him aside to clear his line of sight to Seth. The gunshot that followed shattered the silence like a bomb. Seth staggered and crumpled onto the floor, blood spurting from a hole in his head in uneven bursts, quickly forming a slick pool across the marble floor beneath him. The attacker let off another round into the ceiling and roared, "Everybody on the ground! Now! Move!" For a beat, no one moved. The air rang with echoes, and faint music hummed in the background. Then the horror of the moment sank in, and chaos exploded. Some guests hit the floor immediately, frozen in shock, while others dashed for safety. A woman attempting to open a window was gunned down on the spot, and then Terry Schultz, trying to crawl back down the stairs toward the front door, was shot without hesitation. Terry tumbled the rest of the way to the bottom, lifeless. The assailant fired twice more, this time at a woman sprinting up the spiral staircase. She screamed in agony, but managed to drag herself up to the landing, finally collapsing and crawling out of view. I said, "Get on the damn floor," he barked. The others obeyed Instantly, digging into the filthy side pocket of his worn backpack, he pulled out a bundle of zip ties and snarled, "Anyone tries anything, I'll blow your heads off. I couldn't care less about any of you, got it? Not even a little bit." P. So don't get smart. He moved methodically, binding each person's wrists behind their back. He rifled through their pockets and took every phone he found. When that was done, he latched every window and drew every blind. Once convinced that no one could see in, he retrieved a compact cordless screwdriver from his bag along with a sack full of screws. He used them to fasten the door shut, anchoring them tightly to their frames. With the job complete, he turned to the bar and poured himself a tall drink. Vodka glinting in a crystal tumbler, he took a long swig. Even the expensive stuff burns like poison going down. That's tough. Holding the drink in one hand and the pistol in the other, he herded the remaining guests into a cozy corner of the room Carmine had dubbed the Conversation Nook. Two high-end sofas faced each other, welcoming no conversation tonight. A sleek glass table stood between the two couches, and the space was elegantly lit by subtle ceiling fixtures. Once everyone had taken a seat, the armed man lifted his vodka glass and sneered, "Cheers, losers! Having a blast yet? No? Yeah, well, same here. Been a long time since I enjoyed anything." He smirked bitterly and knocked back more alcohol. Wincing, he tossed the empty glass onto the carpet beside him. "Damn, that's brutal. Need some OJ to smooth it out, right?" He scanned the group with a hard stare while reloading his weapon with a fresh magazine. Then he jabbed a thumb at his chest and asked, "Anyone recognize me? Take a shot in the dark, come on." Around the room, eyes flickered nervously. Nobody dared speak, because any answer could get them killed. So they sat frozen, bracing for what came next. All right, we'll circle back to that later. Let's see if I can guess who you jokers are instead. Sound good? Okay, here we go. Looks like I've got Carmine Montello sitting right here. You're a producer, right? Terry was your partner in business? Okay. Next to Carmine, we've got Elizabeth McKay, and then Jeremy Reeves, I think. She's an actress, and you're the screenwriter. I saw one of you on a late-night show once. You've got jokes, don't you? Pretty sharp wit. Jeremy tried not to shrink under his piercing gaze. Yeah, that's me. Appreciate it. And then this guy next to Jeremy, I don't know you. Who might you be, pal? The man shifted awkwardly and murmured, "I'm not famous or anything. I'm in the real estate game." The intruder gave him a long, measuring look. "What's your name, property guy?" The gunman raised an eyebrow. "It's Ken Rysdale. Not famous, like I said. Just a regular guy selling homes." The intruder didn't seem convinced. "Maybe there's more to your story, maybe not. Either way, you're here, right? You catch my drift?" Ken recoiled into the cushions. "Why is this happening? Is this about money? None of us ever wronged you. That's not even close to the truth. They tore my world apart." Ken looked at him confused and slowly shook his head. "No, man, that's not real. You're somewhere else entirely. There's something wrong with your head, all right? You're not well. Please, just hear me out." But the man with the gun was already approaching. He towered above Ken and snarled, "You know what? Your name does ring a bell. I saw it on a billboard somewhere. Ken Rysdale Realty or something like that. You're one of those slick developers who pave over farmland and toss up rows of flimsy McMansions, identical boxes made of garbage materials that'll crumble before the loans are even close to paid off. And while they rot, you're swimming in cash. People like you are absolute scum. Did you know that? I've never touched you or crossed paths with you in my life. This is literally the first time we've ever seen each other, I swear. You're making a terrible mistake right now, sir. You're not well. You seriously need help. The gunman suddenly struck Ken in the face with the muzzle of his weapon. The others all gasped at the sickening blunt impact as the barrel cracked against Ken's cheekbone. His flesh split, and crimson streaks flowed down his jaw, dripping and splashing across his shirt. Ken gawked at him in shock. The gunman stared him down and whispered, "That hurts, doesn't it? Well, I've got 50 more where that came from, so zip it. You think I'm the unstable one? Me? I'm the only one in this room who hasn't lost it. It's all of you who are broken, not me." He moved toward the final person on the couch, scowling at him with raw contempt. Speaking of gutter trash, here's a textbook example. A corporate lawyer. "How's it going, Theodore? You look rough. Chest feeling tight, maybe?" He jabbed the muzzle against the trembling man's chest and grinned. "Come on, Ted. Let the heart give out. It's all right. Just give in and drag your sorry soul to the afterlife. Do the world a solid and stop sucking in air." "Just leave me be," Ted stuttered, face round and trembling, soaked with tears. "This is insane. You're insane." There it is again, the C word. Didn't we already go over that, Ted? "I'm not insane. You know damn well who I am. Say it. Say my name out loud." Ted glanced up at him silently, lips pressed into a firm, fearful line. The gunman let out a low laugh. "You'd rather bet your life on a lunatic than say it. Holy hell. All righty then, let's try this." He reached into his side pocket and snapped something open. It was a switchblade, its 5-inch blade springing out with a click. The steel looked menacingly sharp. Ted's gaze locked onto the gleaming edge. He shrank into the couch as far as he could and squeaked, "Please don't cut me," just like a frightened piglet. And with a sudden thrust, the tip of the blade jabbed into Ted's thick thigh. The lawyer howled in agony, sparking a round of panicked cries from the other captives. One of them lunged to his feet, his face a grotesque blend of terror and resolve. He ended up staring directly into the muzzle of the gun and froze, unmoving. "What do you think you're doing, buddy? Planning something stupid? What did I say about playing games?" The man trying to intervene shuffled back a step and rasped, "I wasn't doing anything. I just wanted you to stop, all right? No more pain. Just quit it, man, please." "Nope. Sit down and stay quiet." He turned his gaze back to Ted the attorney. "Damn, that leg's gushing like crazy. Did I hit a vein? I think there might be one around there." Ted looked as if he might collapse. "I've got a wife. I've got children. Please don't take my life. I'm begging you, don't." The man pointed his firearm square at the lawyer's forehead, the dim light catching a glint in his eye. "What's my name? Say my damn name, Ted. Say it." The young woman seated next to the failed hero stomped her feet and screamed, "Stop! Leave him alone. Everyone's too scared to speak, okay? He said he told us we can't." Her voice faltered. Her tear-streaked face crumpled like wet tissue, and she glanced uncertainly at Carmine. He subtly shook his head. "He said we're not allowed to do what exactly?" The gunman asked in a hushed tone. His aim never left Ted, finger resting on the trigger. The young woman swallowed hard and mumbled, "I don't know. I'm not sure." The intruder turned to her and offered a grin as lifeless as a corpse's. "Forget what anyone else said. They're not calling the shots here. I am, me, the guy with the weapon. Now go ahead and say what you were going to." Carmine scowled and snapped, "Carla, be quiet. Just stop." "No, nope, and never. You don't get to decide anything, my friend. She can speak her mind." He gave the frightened girl a firm look and said, "Go on. It's the right thing to do. He told us not to ever say your name out loud." Her voice came out in gasps as fresh, scalding tears poured down her cheeks. Both Carmine and Ted let out audible groans at the same moment. Carmine's face turned an angry, blotchy crimson. He muttered a curse low and raw, grinding his teeth. "And who said that? Who told you never to speak my name?" The girl shook her head wildly, sobbing harder. "Tell me who it was, and why they said it." She pressed her lips together in a firm, desperate line and shook her head once more. The intruder studied her in silence, then suddenly struck Ted with the butt of his gun. Ted slumped back against the cushions with a guttural whimper. Not quite like the movies, huh? There's no booming sound effect when you smack someone in real life. But a solid slap to the face? Now that's something else. Here, let me demonstrate. He tucked the blade back into his pocket and raised his hand in full view. Then he spun on his heel and delivered a vicious slap across Ted's face. The impact cracked like a whip in the quiet room. The lawyer sagged forward, snoring through blood and spit. The intruder swept his eyes across the stunned group and asked, "You understand now? This isn't a film set. No studio lights, no crew. This blood is legit. I'm legit. So quit gawking and face reality." He turned toward Carla, giving her a conspiratorial smirk like they were about to spill secrets. "It was Ted, wasn't it?" "I know it was." "Just say yes or no, Carla. You're out of options." "Yes, it was Ted. He told us not to use your name, not even when we're alone. Said we'd be hunted down for violating our NDA." Carmine squirmed in his seat. "You absolute idiot. You just doomed us, you know that? Shut your trap. You already doomed yourselves long ago. Took a while to catch up, that's all. Quit assigning blame and own your mistake." He turned to the girl, eyes narrowing. "You know, you don't look familiar to me. Are you in the industry?" "Not exactly. I mean, yeah, I'm an actress, but lately I've been doing PA work. Just a helper, really. A production assistant got invited to an event like this? With this crowd? Why?" The question floated unanswered as he shifted toward the man who had tried to sneak up behind him. "And you, tough guy? You the dolly grip or what? What's your angle?" The man stared into his lap and mumbled, "I'm Trent Young. I'm the cinematographer. All right, I'm just going to call you Mr. Hero from now on, because, well, I'm a jerk. Moving on, saving the best for last, we've got the renowned filmmaker Ron Kersey. Director, producer, creative genius, all that glamorous nonsense. You make some damn fine films, sir. Seriously, but let's be honest. You're kind of an arrogant prick, aren't you?" "I have no response to that," Ron replied evenly. He was trying to appear calm, but sweat was breaking out even with the cool air swirling around him. He paused, then added, "What do you want from us?" "I want back the life you people stole. But that's not happening, is it? So we'll do this instead." He swept the room with narrowed eyes. "All right, so there are, let me count, 8 of you down here, 1 person upstairs, and myself. That gives us a total of 10. If I could craft a tale about this night, I'd call it 10 Rotten Bastards. Get it? Like that Agatha Christie mystery with the old problematic title. What, none of you recognize it? Figures. Who the hell reads Christie anymore, huh? Ron swallowed hard and repeated, "What do you want from us? Why are you doing this?" The masked man stared back with an expressionless face, calm and unreadable. He didn't say a word, didn't blink, just studied him. Then he pulled in a slow, deliberate breath and leaned closer. The publisher eventually renamed that book, and then there were none. So I guess that's your answer, Mr. Kersey. This is madness. You know it is. Stop pretending this isn't completely deranged. You need to end it now, before... The director's voice trailed off mid-sentence. There was something chilling in the intruder's stare, a lifeless, impenetrable void where his soul should have been. Just cold, endless shadow. Oh, hell no. We're way past the point of turning back. Far, far past that line. Ron shook his head slowly, his breath trembling. That's not true. Listen to me. You don't have to go through with this. We can get you help. The intruder suddenly slammed a fist into Ron's gut, folding him in half. He grinned like a wild animal. I don't have to hear a word you say, boss. I don't have to answer to anyone. That's the truth. So screw you, screw me, and screw every last one of them. Ain't no stopping me now. We're getting close to the final chapter. Ron dragged in a ragged breath and forced himself to sit upright. The masked man's smirk vanished. For a fleeting moment, he resembled a scared little boy. Alone and abandoned in a desolate forest, he inhaled deeply, trembling, and muttered, "There's no use, Ron. Talking time is over. I'm doing this because you destroyed me, you bastard. You all ruined everything I had, and now I'm going to return the courtesy." Without warning, he spun around and strode toward the winding staircase. Once he disappeared, Carmine whispered urgently, "Carla, get to my office. Call the police. Do it fast before he comes back. Move!" Carla fought back tears, sniffling. "How? My hands are tied." "Bite down on a pencil and press the numbers, genius. Just go already." Elizabeth McKay glared at him and broke her silence for the first time since the nightmare began. "Why don't you do it, Carmine? I mean, it's your damn house, isn't it? Far as I'm concerned, you're to blame for this psycho walking in. Where's your security?" Carmine made an obnoxious sound with his lips. "What security? Security? I'm not Spielberg or something, Liz. I can't afford fancy guards. Let's be real." "Sure sounds like crap to me, but fine. Let's argue later. Make the call." He gave her a look like she'd just grown a second head. "Not a chance. She's the one who couldn't keep quiet, not me." "Carla, why the hell are you still sitting there? Move it already, for God's sake. What are you waiting for?" Ted's eyes fluttered open, and he let out a faint groan. One side of his face was puffed up badly, like some horrific blend of man and chipmunk. "My jaw hurts to talk. Then quit talking." He turned back to Carla, nodding toward the office with sharp urgency. "This ain't a request, honey. It's an order. Get moving." Everyone jolted in their seats. A third shot rang out, followed by a thick, uneasy silence. Who was it? Did he get Grace? She bolted upstairs when the gunfire started. "I think she's dead." "Doesn't matter. He's up there, not down here, so get up and make the damn call." Elizabeth elbowed him hard in the ribs. "Choke on trash, Carmine. You're a damn jerk, you know that?" He shot her a withering look. "You don't climb the ladder in this industry by playing nice, Liz. If anyone should understand that, it's you." Elizabeth's gaze burned with years of pent-up rage. "Let me make something clear, Carmine. If I make it out of here in one piece, I'm blowing the whistle on you. And I'm not just talking about tonight's circus. I mean every dark secret, the entire dirty archive. Carmine's face turned a grotesque shade of red. He averted his eyes and grumbled, "You better shut your trap, Liz. Who the hell do you think you are? You got all this anger. Why don't you make the damn call? Go ahead." Ken stomped his foot to pull everyone's focus. He flicked his chin toward the staircase and murmured, "He's coming back. Keep quiet." They all held their breath as the gunman descended the swirling steps, pistol swinging loosely by his side. In his other arm, he cradled something odd, a golden statuette of a serene figure clutching a string instrument, smiling into the void. He stopped in the center of the room and said, "And then there were 9. Catching their disgusted looks, he added, "Just cracking a joke, folks. You know, gotta cut the tension once in a while, right?" Carla let out a strangled sob. "Why, Gracie? Why would you kill her? She was one of the kindest people I've ever met. She was here, that's all it took. By the way, Carmine, you've got some really awesome junk lying around. How much is this worth? Maybe $4,000? Just guessing. These things fluctuate, so I'm holding a $4,000 trinket, and you just leave it on your bedside table collecting dust. Is this some kind of Hindu figure? Doesn't seem like your vibe. I'm not a believer. She's the goddess of imagination. Felt like a good fit." The gunman dropped the statue on the coffee table and sneered, "So you see yourself as a visionary, huh? Man, that's hilarious. You haven't made a damn thing in your life. Let's be real. Your company's just a fancy loan office. You bankroll other people's visions and pocket a chunk of their success. That's not artistry. Unless you meant scam artistry, then yeah, that tracks. You conned me. You stole my work, turned it into tens of millions, and what did I get? 0. Not even a penny." He jabbed a finger into his chest. "I'm the one who brings ideas to life, not you. That overpriced dust collector should be on my table, not yours. But that's not how life goes. Guys like me, we don't even get a mattress, forget a damn table. No golden idols for the ones who actually create. That's not how things played out. You want the truth?" Carmine kept his mouth shut. The stranger studied him with narrowed eyes and said, "Let me spell it out for you. One day I wake up and see a private message from someone who appreciates what I do. I mean, I don't exactly have a fan club or anything, but a few folks follow my work. Anyway, this person dropped me a link to a movie preview on YouTube. I clicked on it and thought, what the hell am I looking at? Because the storyline looked disturbingly close to one of my original pieces. Want to take a wild guess at what happened next? The captives remained mute. The stranger grinned at each of them in turn, his teeth yellowed and lips curled in burning resentment. At first, I thought it couldn't be real. Can you blame me? I was shocked. I mean, seriously, how on earth would a big-shot Hollywood studio stumble onto my stuff? I wasn't a name. I wasn't even a blip on the radar. Just another nobody uploading scraps to the web now and then. None of it added up. I couldn't make sense of it. He locked eyes on Carmine, who looked away and fidgeted with unease. The man sneered and kept going. You know, when all this crap hit, I was mopping floors in a warehouse. I was making peanuts, cleaning up vomit and bathroom slime. Honestly, it was a terrible gig, and the people there were worse. Bitter, nasty, toxic human beings. Now and then, someone would smear crap all over the bathroom wall like some twisted art project. I wish I were joking, but I'm dead serious. Sometimes they'd even scrawl insults about me, the janitor, in human waste. Can you picture that? No, I don't think you can. Your mind's too dull to stretch that far. You're like a spoon with no edge, Carmine. Mindless, selfish, and totally pathetic. Anyway, I was damn near broke, earning pennies that barely kept me alive. That payout could have flipped my whole existence. But it wasn't just about the money. Imagine what else it could have led to. If I had a screenplay credit on a blockbuster film, man, that's something you can build a career on. Writers dream of it. It's the kind of break that changes everything, and it almost never happens. Even with a top-tier literary agent, it would still be a long shot. The intruder paused, staring at the wall for a moment before abruptly turning and walking to the bar. He poured himself another vodka and said, "All right, listen up, everyone. I didn't have any of that. No agent, no manager, no publicist, none of that nonsense. I was just drifting, barely making it, a tiny fish in a massive sea. I went about my life, doing what I could, cleaning toilets and selling maybe 15 books a month online. It sucked, don't get me wrong, but at least it was something. It wasn't a glamorous life. Hell, it wasn't even a decent life, but it was something. Better than having nothing at all, right?" The intruder made his way back to the group, his drink in hand, eyes watery from the alcohol he'd swallowed back at the bar. He lifted his glass and said, "A toast to our dreams, those fragile, beautiful dreams. They're only ever realized by the wealthy and the powerful because they've got the money to make it happen. And a small army of lawyers. Isn't that right, Theodore?" Ted made a low noise in his throat and started to shake. The atmosphere became charged with a tense, thunderous energy. The other hostages could feel it. Ted was next. The intruder stopped right in front of him, eyeing him closely. "Theodore, you're not the same guy when you're sending a threatening email, are you? Number, you turn into Theodore when you're out for blood. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just doing my job. Nothing personal." "Nothing personal? Do you really not remember the Christmas Eve email you sent me? You were practically fuming when you typed that thing, weren't you? God, it was a 10-page rant. You wrote a whole essay about how much I'd regret it if I didn't vanish. Man, you were pissed. Why was that, Theodore? Was it because, deep down, you knew I was right? I didn't. I mean, sure, I did send that email, but you were the one who started with the threats. I just responded in a professional manner to your completely unfounded accusations. Okay, maybe I came off a little too harsh, but honestly, you're lucky I didn't file a lawsuit. You don't have the right to..." The intruder kicked the couch violently between Ted's legs and shouted, "Shut the hell up, you moron! What the hell did you just say? Baseless? Are you blind? Have you been sleeping for the past 20 minutes? The cat's out of the bag, you idiot. We all know what happened. For God's sake, Jeremy didn't even bother changing the antagonist's name. What's wrong with you? You a damn robot or something? Look at you. Your bullshit spilling everywhere, and your hands are tied. This is your situation now, and you're still spitting out some lawyer speak. Unbelievable." Carmine stared at Ted, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. "What's all this about? You didn't say anything about an email, and you responded to him without running it by me first?" A slow grin spread across the intruder's face. "Looks like someone's been stepping out of line. Tell him what happened, Theodore. Tell him everything or I'll knock your teeth out." Ted slumped back into the couch, looking like a man utterly broken and miserable. A year after we heard from his lawyer, we got an email from this guy. He said if he didn't get confirmation that Ron was aware of the situation, he'd take his accusations public on social media. Carmine's face turned an even deeper shade of red. Through clenched teeth, he growled, "Do you have any idea what kind of hell this could have unleashed on me? Why didn't you call me? And you too, Ron. Not a word about this from you. He told me. I'm a nobody." The intruder interrupted, his angry grin quickly fading into a hollow, haunted expression. "He called me delusional, wrote 10 pages of nonsense to explain how I was wrong, then threatened to ruin what little was left of my life if I didn't just disappear." I sat at the kitchen table on Christmas Eve, reading his arrogant crap while my wife pretended everything was fine. She was buzzing around the house, adjusting the ornaments, tinkering with the tree, trying to act busy, just trying to ignore me as I sat there getting angrier and angrier while she did everything she could to make Christmas feel normal. Then I snapped. I threw my phone across the room and shouted, "You're lying, and you know it, you son of a bitch." The intruder paused, his eyes glazed, and looked around the room as though he didn't quite know where he was anymore. He exhaled shakily. My wife. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face, and screamed, "Why can't you just let it go? I can't handle this anymore. Just let it go. Move on." The intruder took another deep gulp from his drink and winced from the burn in his throat. He pointed the gun at Ted and said, "You were terrified of what would happen if people found out. The audience, the people who flocked to see Carmine's lousy movies. Can you picture the fallout if I went public? People love to tear down Hollywood figures. No matter how much they admire you, they're always waiting for the chance to bring you down. The rest of you may not get it, but Ted does. He understands the weight of public opinion." The intruder aimed the gun at Ted. "What's your role, Theodore? What exactly does Carmine's company hire you to do?" Ted gave the intruder a confused glance. "I'm the head of their legal team." "Right, sure. But what's your actual job? What do you do?" Ted stared at him and remained silent. It was clear he was struggling to form words. The left side of his face looked grotesque, like a mask from a horror movie. His cheek was puffed up to an unnatural size, and dried blood clung to the swollen skin. The stab wound in his thigh had stopped bleeding, but the pain still burned, making him dizzy with each pulse. He took a long, ragged breath and said, "I don't know what you want from me. The truth, you idiot. Your job is to keep the company from losing money. That's what you're paid for. Being accused of robbing a working man? Oh, that's not a good look. That kind of thing can hurt ticket sales and drain the company's profits. It could be a problem, yeah. But I checked your accusations, and they weren't true. I responded to everything in full detail." The intruder's eyes grew wide, his chest rising and falling in short bursts. "You dumb motherfucker, stop with the act. You really thought I was just gonna disappear, huh? Crawl into some hole and never come back? But then I showed up and you got pissed because I wasn't supposed to do that." Carmine cut in, "I want to see what response you got from Ted. You have email on your phone?" The intruder winced as he heard Carmine's voice. He leaned down to meet Carmine's gaze and said, "I don't owe you anything, man. The time to check facts and verify?" That ship has sailed. Just shut up and let me talk." He pointed at the director and shook his head with a bitter laugh. I didn't think Ron even knew, but apparently he did, and he just didn't care. "You're a special kind of asshole, did you know that? You go on about being just a regular guy, but it's all a lie. You're just another spoiled rich guy in a limo. You make movies about regular people's struggles, but I doubt you even know anyone who's really struggling. You're worse than Theodore over there, because at least he doesn't hide who he really is. He's a vulture, and he owns it. You, though, you live so far up your own ass, it's unreal. We've got nothing in common, you and me. You live in the clouds. Hell, you wouldn't even notice a regular person unless we held you hostage and made you look at us." Carmine seemed completely unaware of the tension between the intruder and Ron. He was too focused on glaring at his head of legal. Suddenly, he shouted, "God damn it, Ted! Why didn't you come to me when you got that email? I could have struck a deal with him, for Christ's sake. What's the cost? 20,000? 40? Who cares? Now look at where we are. You fucking idiot. You damn son of a—" The gunshot rang out, deafening in the small room. A chunk of Carmine's skull splattered against the wall behind him, followed by a rush of blood. He let out a gurgled groan and crumpled sideways. His head landed in Elizabeth's lap. She screamed, jumping up from the couch only to be shoved back down by the intruder. She collapsed on top of Carmine, wriggling away and pressing herself against Jeremy with a look of frantic revulsion. "Nobody moves from the couch. Don't even think about it. Screw you. He was bleeding all over me. His blood is all over my legs. I don't give a damn if you're drowning in it, lady. You keep your ass on that cushion. This isn't right. I haven't done anything to you. I was in a movie and got paid for it. That's all. That's all I did." The intruder took another deep swig of vodka and wandered across the room, glancing around at the lavish surroundings with a mix of disdain and disbelief. "Stop whining about it. I don't care about you. Get him off the couch. Get him away from me." The gunman stormed back toward the conversation nook and yanked Carmine's body off the couch. He shoved his gun into his waistband and dragged the lifeless form to the other side of the room. And then there were 8. "Tell me something, Ron. Why are you all gathered here tonight? It seems too convenient that everyone here worked on the same film. A little too late for a rap party, don't you think? So, what's the real reason?" A brief glance was exchanged among the remaining hostages. Ron licked his lips and responded with a question of his own. "How did you find this place? Carmine's address isn't public." "Oh, I've done my homework. I guess it's time for the second part of my story. That's what I do, right? I tell stories, I tell them, and you take them. Isn't that right, Mr. Kersey?" "No, that's not right at all. Go ahead. Tell your story then. Here we go. Let's call this Act 2, the aftermath. Anyway, after Ted sent me that delightful email on Christmas Eve, I gave up on trying to reach anyone. I was afraid I'd have to defend myself against you assholes in a libel suit, and I was scared I'd lose. I didn't have a lawyer anymore, so I was basically screwed. I guess I kind of fell into a downward spiral. I started drinking again. I couldn't get any rest without it. I stopped caring about everything. The only thing I could think about was how my work had been stolen. Writing isn't something you do in a rush. It takes time, focus, and dedication. You can't just churn out a novel in a month and call it finished. There's research, revisions, more drafts, endless editing. It's a never-ending cycle. On top of all that, you still have to keep a job and make ends meet. I kept going through the motions for a while, but it wasn't the same. I couldn't lose myself in the narrative anymore. The magic was gone, and that really messed me up. Losing the ability to dive into my own imagination, that hurt more than being robbed of my work. It felt like losing a part of myself. I wasn't whole anymore. I got frustrated, and then I got angry. I started treating everyone like crap. I had no patience, no calm, like the kids say, no chill. I hated everything, but mostly I hated myself. I was close to breaking, and then I quit my job. What happened? Why did you quit? The intruder pulled off his grimy baseball cap and ran his hand through his thinning hair. Well, I used to be someone with a dream, and then I was just nobody. I couldn't pretend to care anymore. I gave them 2 weeks' notice, and that was that. I told my wife I'd look for a new job, but I didn't. She tried to be patient with me, but how long was she supposed to keep doing that? When she started nagging me about it, I told her, I'll focus on writing, and I'll make it work. I promise. But promises from me don't mean anything, apparently, because that didn't happen either. I just sort of aimlessly wandered around, brooding all day. He ran his hand through his hair again and gave his captive audience a crooked grin. Look, I've got a record, okay? Drugs, petty theft, stupid stuff like that. The kind of crimes poor people commit. I paid my price, but that doesn't change anything. People like to think a criminal record doesn't matter when you're looking for a job. But trust me, it does. Why would anyone take a chance on someone like me when they could hire someone with a clean slate? Let's face it, most people have never even been arrested, let alone convicted of a crime. If you got that kind of baggage, your options are limited. It's not fair. I know that. I get it. In my experience, the best you can expect is temporary work at a factory or warehouse, and that's not exactly glamorous. I remember working at one such place, a warehouse. It was a conveyor belt that seemed to stretch forever, so long that you couldn't even see where it started. The belt was always piled high with boxes, non-stop, every single minute. A constant flow of boxes, stretching as far as you could see. I'd stack 8 of these heavy boxes onto a wooden pallet, and then a guy on a forklift would come by to take them away. I had no idea what was inside those boxes, and neither did any of my coworkers. The intruder glanced at Ron and asked, "You know what struck me most about that place? No one ever called me by my name, not once. They'd just point and yell, 'Hey, you!' I'd be out on the floor every day carrying the weight in the summer heat, but not once did anyone come up to me and say, 'Thanks for getting our shipments ready on time.' No, all the credit went to the area manager, a guy who never left his cool office. He literally never stepped foot on the floor during the entire time I worked there. Do you see the connection here, folks?" The intruder's body began to tremble violently in his filthy sweatshirt. "You all managed to find the one thing I held dear, my dumb little dream, my beautiful, foolish little daydream. You took it, and now you're making millions off my work. What did you do when I spoke up? You called me a nobody, an oddball, nothing. Well, look at me now, you miserable coward. Here I am, standing right in front of you." I didn't say that. I never said that. Stop getting all riled up and listen to reason. Why should I listen to reason, huh? After all, I'm a nobody, right? Right? The barrel of the gun flashed, followed by a deafening shot. And everyone screamed. Ted, of course, screamed the loudest. He tumbled off the couch, landing flat on his back. Still screaming, Ted started dragging himself across the floor with his good leg, babbling nonsense as he crawled desperately across the carpet. The intruder stood still, watching the lawyer's pathetic attempt to escape. His lip trembled like he might burst into tears, but his eyes burned with fury. The fires of vengeance had already scorched his soul, and now those flames would consume his enemies too. Tonight, they would all burn together. The intruder snatched up Carmine's golden statue and followed after his loathed enemy. He stopped Ted's agonized crawl with a brutal kick to the ribs. He pinned the sobbing man with his knee and grunted, "Unreal, you bastard!" The statue slammed against the lawyer's forehead once, twice, then a third time, for good measure. The intruder stood up, raising the bloodied statue toward the other hostages. He shouted, "Do you see that, assholes? Huh? Do you see what just happened?" Ted was already beyond saving, but that wasn't enough. It would never be enough. The intruder snarled like an animal and pummeled the dying man with a viciousness that could only come from pure rage. Blood sprayed, splattering on the ceiling, walls, everywhere around them. The intruder didn't stop until the lawyer's head was a mangled mess, completely unrecognizable. When he finally calmed down, he dropped the statue and rolled away from the corpse. Lying on his back for a few moments, panting and drenched in blood, the intruder sat up and gasped, "There's not much time left. That woman upstairs was talking to 911 when I shot her. The cops are probably surrounding the place by now." Trent shot him a furious glare and hissed, "You sick, twisted monster! Do you think that was in any way justified? I hope you rot in prison for the rest of your life." The intruder stood up slowly. "We haven't heard from you in a while, Mr. Hero. You going to give us your big speech now? Go ahead. Get it out." Trent grinned back and said, "You've already killed the ones directly responsible. What more do you want? Some more attention? Is that it? Do you want us to remember your name? You don't deserve one. You're just a coward with a gun. Keep hiding behind it, you pathetic piece of shit." The intruder gave him a look of disbelief. "The gun's just a hunk of metal. It doesn't do anything unless I pull the trigger. Want to see something really dangerous?" He stomped over to Carmine's massive TV and grabbed something from the end table. It was the remote control. The intruder yanked Trent by the hair and held the remote up to his face. "This, right here, this thing is dangerous, Mr. Hero. This is the fucking A-bomb. I couldn't do more damage with anything else, not in 1,000 lifetimes." Trent opened its mouth to say something, but couldn't find the words. Just then, a voice from outside blared through a loudspeaker. "Attention! This is Sergeant Hernandez from the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. In about 1 minute, you will receive a phone call on the landline registered to the homeowner. Please pick up when it rings." The intruder muttered quietly, his face draining of color, a look of panic crossing his features. Fear, once again, gripped him like a shadow. Elizabeth cried out, "Just give yourself up. This is pointless. You don't have to die tonight, and neither do any of us. You need help." The intruder shot her a sharp, piercing look. "I know why you all came here tonight," he sneered. "You came to talk about a sequel. No one replied, but the guilty looks on their faces spoke volumes. The intruder nodded sadly to himself, a gesture full of regret, and shook his head. "Terry Schultz spilled everything," he muttered. "You know how I got him? I catfished the old fool using stock photos. I literally Googled blonde bimbo stock photo and used one for my profile. Yeah, it was that simple. I tied him up and left him in the trunk of his car for a while. When I finally let him out, he was more than eager to cooperate." The intruder rummaged through his backpack, pulled out a script, and waved it around. Original screenplay by Jeremy Reeves. Ah, you wrote this all on your own, huh? Or maybe you were just taking credit for someone else's work again. That sounds about right, doesn't it? Just then, the phone in Carmine's office rang. "Excuse me for a second," the intruder said, jogging over to answer it. The hostages strained to catch what little they could of the conversation. It was brief. "Hello? Yeah, that's me. Okay, hold on. I don't have a list of demands. It's not about that. No, I'm not explaining why. You'll figure it out later. It's just something I need to do. That's all. Sorry. Can you repeat that?" "No, absolutely not. You're not getting it, officer. I don't want any of that. I'm going to do what I have to. And when it's done, you can go ahead and blow me to pieces. I honestly couldn't care less." He listened for a moment, then let out an annoyed sound. The intruder returned to the group, irritation etched on his face. He stared at the hostages with bloodshot eyes and rasped, "The cops want to negotiate. They just don't understand. I don't want money or fame. I don't have a righteous cause or a manifesto. I just want to kill you assholes. Let us go. Killing us won't make things right. It'll just make you wrong." Carla spoke up. The intruder fixed her with a hollow, shocked stare. "Why are you even here?" he asked. "You never answered me." Carla's face flushed deep red. She muttered something inaudible and stared down at the floor. The intruder gave her leg a light kick. "I didn't catch that. Speak up," he demanded. Elizabeth cut in before she could respond. "She was with Carmine, that's why she's here. He liked them young and easy to manipulate. That was his thing." The intruder scrunched his face in disgust as he looked at Carmine's body. "You were sleeping with this guy? Oh, that must have been tough, but hey, I get it. You do what you have to do to survive." "I wasn't sleeping with him, but thanks. We were actually in a relationship for almost 6 months," she corrected him. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. "Do you honestly believe that, sweetie? Look, I knew Carmine for years. Trust me, he was going to get bored and toss you aside like yesterday's trash. It happened to me too, and it happened to a lot of others. He didn't care about no's. If you said no, he'd just do what he wanted anyway." She paused, her voice softening. "And look where you are now. I'm sorry if that happened to you, but I don't know what I'm really trying to say here. All I know is I'm not just some production assistant. I'm an actress, Liz. I belong in front of the camera just like you do. Everyone gets their shot, right? You got yours. I was just trying to get mine." Elizabeth looked at her with a mixture of pity and disbelief. "I'm sure you're a good actress, but here's the thing, Carla. There are a lot of good actresses out there. If you manage to make it, you won't belong to yourself anymore. They'll use you up, then tear you down, and when there's nothing left, they'll toss you away." The intruder flopped down on the couch beside Ken, not even noticing the blood soaking into the cushions. There's always a parasite waiting at every step of the ladder, no matter which direction you go. He turned to Ken with a sharp look. Speaking of parasites, let me ask you, Ken, what's your story? You're not from Hollywood, right? You're a real estate mogul, if I'm not mistaken. Or is there more to it? Ken's face paled as all attention shifted to him. He glanced down and mumbled, "I've known Carl Mean since college. I've invested in his production company, lent him money, hoping to make a decent return." He looked up nervously. "That's the extent of my involvement here. It's just business." The intruder chuckled. "That's a real stand-up thing to do, Ken. Helping your friends chase their dreams. How noble. I used to have dreams, too. It was nice to have those dreams." He sighed, his voice turning bitter. "It would have been even better if I'd actually been paid for those dreams. Oh, you bet it would have. But that's not how this is going down, my friend, and here we are." A flicker of realization passed over Ken's face. "I'll give you $1 million if you let me walk out of here. Hell, I'll make it $2 million. Just let me go and the money's yours." The intruder seemed oddly amused by the real estate mogul's proposal. A dark smile tugged at the corner of his lips, and he let out a low laugh. "What about the others? I'm guessing you're the richest person here, alive or dead. Are you going to offer to pay for them too?" Ken scoffed. "I don't care about these people. I don't even know them. If they've got a problem with you, take it up with them. I couldn't care less. Just let me live." The intruder's gaze hardened, his eyes becoming colder. He studied Ken's bruised, despairing face before responding, "Of course you don't care about them. They're not piles of cash. They're just people." The gunman motioned with a sharp jerk of his head. "Come with me." He grabbed Ken by the shirt, pulling him to his feet and marching him down the stairs to the door. "Take a look out this window. Tell me what you see," he instructed, guiding Ken to the window and pulling up the blinds. Ken hesitated, giving the intruder a wary glance. "Go on. Tell me what's happening out there. Here, put this on." The intruder shoved a baseball cap onto Ken's head before pushing him toward the window. Moments later, a bullet ripped through his forehead. Blood erupted from the back of his skull as he collapsed in a tangle of glass shards. Ken was dead before he even hit the ground. Without a moment's hesitation, the intruder pulled the blinds back down. A second shot rang out almost immediately, embedding itself in the staircase. He swiftly ejected the magazine from his gun, quickly loading another one from his pocket as he ascended the stairs, his eyes scanning the diminishing group of hostages. With a grim smile, he motioned toward the door and said, "And now there are 7. Ron twisted in his chair, glaring at the intruder, his face twisted in disgust. "You think that's funny?" he spat. "Huh? Is this all some kind of joke to you?" The intruder responded with cold indifference, firing twice into Ron's chest. Carla screamed as Ron crumpled to the floor. The intruder yanked him by the leg, dragging him into the center of the living room. With a vicious grin, he repeated, "Nothing is funny." Not in the slightest. His fury erupted as he kicked Ron's head and torso with brutal force, each strike punctuating his words. He continued ranting and spitting as the room filled with his manic rage. "You messed up, Ronnie. You all screwed up big time. You ruined everything. You wrecked my marriage. You ruined my entire life. You pissed on me and called it rain, didn't you? You completely destroyed everything." The intruder stopped for a moment, gasping for air, his face still twisted into that same bitter grin. At that moment, the phone line to Carmine's business rang again. The intruder answered on the third ring. "It's me. I'm still here, still alive. You really screwed up. Oh, you definitely made a mistake. You just killed the real estate guy. Great job, idiot." He paused, then lowered his voice. "If you come in, I'll blow this whole place to hell. I've rigged the doors and I'm wearing a vest with—" What was that? No, it's not. For God's sake, listen to me. Is that something you could give me? It's not yours to offer. Look, I don't think we have anything left to discuss, okay? No more calls. The gunman slammed the phone down and then shot it off the desk. The phone flew up into the air with a loud pop, plastic flying everywhere. He closed his eyes, taking a long, deep breath, gripping the pistol tightly as his hands trembled. He exhaled slowly, and the shaking almost subsided. Almost. What the hell's happening? His vision blurred with sudden tears. He wished he could just vanish, fade away. But he knew that wasn't an option. He had to finish what he started. There was no other way forward. The intruder wiped his eyes with his sleeve and moved quickly back to the conversation nook. "Looks like we're in the final act, folks. No more wasting time." The hostages exchanged fearful glances, confusion and panic spreading across their faces. "What does that mean? What are you talking about?" In response, the intruder racked the slide of his gun, loading a round into the chamber. Carlo whimpered, starting to hyperventilate. Jeremy shot him a look of contempt and snapped, "Do you have any idea how many lives you've ruined tonight? For what? 60 grand, maybe? How long do you think that would have lasted? The residuals aren't going to make you rich. Trust me, it's not easy money, and a writing credit won't open the gates of fame and fortune for you. You wasted everything, and for what? Why? Do you really think you were robbed of your success? Well, here's the cold truth for you, okay? I can practically guarantee you wouldn't have made it. One shot, one chance, and then you're done. How do you think you would have handled it, tough guy? You think you'd have grabbed your little gun and taken down the whole industry? You're an idiot." The intruder stared at him in confusion. "Oh, screw you, jerk. You took everything from me. You all made millions off my damn story and didn't give me a penny, not a single cent, no recognition, not even a thank you. How the hell do you think you're the good guy here? Do you honestly think you're the only one who's ever been ripped off? It's happened to me, too. It's happened to me before, more than once, and each time it was awful. I get it, man. I really do. It sucks, and it makes you want to burn everything down. But it's just part of the ugly reality in this business. Yeah, sure. You wrote a great story, big deal. You think they're going to invite you to their studio and give you a job? Are you out of your mind? You're an outsider, understand? You're just another regular guy with a little bit of talent. You're not one of them, and you never will be. Do you really think they want someone like you hanging out in their writer's room? You don't belong there. Hell, they probably wouldn't even let you clean their parking lot. You don't. The look on the gunman's face stopped Jeremy in his tracks. He towered over the screenwriter and whispered, his voice tight, "I'm an outsider, an interloper, an intruder, if you prefer." "Okay, I'll give you that," the intruder continued. "You're right. I'm not like you soulless assholes. Hell no. Before all this, I was an all right guy. But now, I couldn't care less about money or fame, not anymore. I don't care about starting over either. Hell, I don't even care if I die. To be honest, I'm pretty sure there's no heaven or hell. He paused for a moment, eyes burning. There's just hope on one side and death on the other. The screenwriter opened his mouth, but before he could speak, the intruder slammed a left hook into his chin. Jeremy's head snapped back, dazed, his eyes wide as he looked up at the man. "Shut your mouth and listen. I'm talking, not you," the intruder snapped. "I'm talking about hope, you idiot. Let me tell you about it. Hope is like a tiny, flickering candle in the darkness. So small, so fragile, you know. It's so goddamn delicate. And outside that little flame, there's only darkness. There's sorrow. And beyond that, there's nothing. Just emptiness. Then you morally bankrupt assholes came along and snuffed out the flame. You didn't have to, but you did. And now there's only the void." Jeremy shook his head slowly, mutely. His eyes were full of unshed tears. "I'm sorry, all right? It wasn't my fault." The intruder jabbed the barrel of the gun into his chest, leaning in closer to him, breathing heavily. "The light's gone, and it's time to rest." Elizabeth twisted in her seat, her voice rising in disbelief. "You just gave up? It's not our fault you're a failure." "Yeah, that's right. You're a failure. Want to hear another truth, you pathetic coward?" The intruder growled. "You don't have what it takes to survive in this industry. You get chewed up and spit out. You're right, I wasn't cut out to swim with the sharks." The words slipped out, his voice hollow. "I was just a dreamer with my foolish little dreams. And then you came along and crushed them." "Your dreams? Screw them too," the intruder snapped. Elizabeth hissed and spat at his face. Without warning, the intruder wiped the spit off with his sleeve, his face darkening in rage. He suddenly towered over her, his hand pulled back, ready to strike. "Don't you dare touch me!" she screamed, kicking out with both feet. Her heels slammed into his shins with a sharp crack. He let out a shriek and staggered back. Elizabeth let out a triumphant yell and, in a desperate fury, Bicycle kicked him with all her strength. By pure accident, one of her feet knocked the gun from his hand. It flew into the air and clattered to the floor, vanishing beneath the opposite couch. "Get him!" Elizabeth screamed, launching herself at the intruder like a battering ram. Her head slammed into his midsection, sending them both crashing into the coffee table, the glass top shattering into 1,000 sparkling pieces. He shoved her away, struggling to get back on his feet, but Trent kicked him back down. Trent, losing his balance, fell over the table and rolled onto the broken glass, landing hard on top of the intruder, his weight pinning him down. "Jump on him! Hold him down!" Trent yelled. Jeremy leaned forward, his body straining against the tight zip tie, fighting with every ounce of his strength. A sharp pain flared as the plastic teeth sliced into his skin, but then, with a sharp snap, the tie broke. "My hands are free," he shouted, leaping onto the intruder's back, his numb arms flailing as he pounded at him. Carla and Elizabeth threw their weight onto his legs, holding him down as he thrashed beneath them, roaring in fury like a wild animal. "Jeremy, grab the gun!" Elizabeth cried out. The intruder twisted his body with surprising strength and managed to crawl toward the table. Trent's voice screeched out, "He got me!" Blood poured from a gash across his stomach as he tried to squirm away from the fight. The intruder twisted again and with terrifying precision slashed Jeremy across the neck. The screenwriter pressed his hand tightly over the wound and sprang to his feet. As he tried to flee toward the front door, the intruder slashed him across the leg, causing him to stumble over the couch and awkwardly flip in the process. Blood poured from his neck beneath his hand. Elizabeth and Carla rolled away from the intruder's relentless attacks, scrambling against the couch, begging for their lives. Gasping for air, the intruder smirked. "You nearly had me." He managed to pull himself upright. Elizabeth had managed to crack his shin, but despite the injury, he limped after Jeremy, who was stumbling drunkenly toward the door, blood pouring from his body. The intruder caught up with him at the top of the stairs and shoved him down, sending him tumbling headfirst down the steps. Jeremy's neck snapped on impact. He lay there, watching his blood spread across the marble floor as his vision faded to nothing. The intruder limped back toward Trent, who was writhing on the floor, his intestines spilling from his abdomen. Leaning over him, the intruder grunted, "End of the line. Time to wrap this up." Trent's desperate cries shifted into horrific choking noises as the intruder drove the knife around his neck. Trent looked up, his eyes wide in disbelief, as blood poured from his neck onto the carpet in a steady stream. In moments, his eyes lost their focus and dulled, staring into nothingness. Outside, the voice from the bullhorn echoed, demanding the intruder reconnect the phone. It sounded distant and muffled, as if the world beyond had no connection to the nightmare unfolding inside the condo. The intruder glanced at Elizabeth and Carla, then spat a mouthful of blood on the carpet. And then there were three. "Thank God it's almost over," Elizabeth muttered under her breath. She squeezed her eyes shut. "Don't you dare give yourself up to the cops. Just end it. Blow your brains out and disappear from this world, you worthless piece of shit. That's the plan." The intruder hesitated before turning to Carla. "I guess this won't do much, but you didn't deserve any of this. I'm sorry you got caught up in it." "What about me?" she snapped, her voice trembling. "I didn't even know you existed until after the trailer dropped. What they did to you was disgusting, and I wasn't the only one who thought so." He gave a small, bitter smirk. "Thoughts and prayers, huh? You're a big celebrity now, right? You could have used your power to make the studio do the right thing. What, were they going to take the whole crew to court? I don't think so. But you didn't do anything, did you? You just thought, wow, that sucks. And that was the end of it. That's the real issue here, Liz. Nobody cares about anyone but themselves. Me, me, me. That's all I hear now. I turn on the TV, I tune into the radio, I scroll online, and there it is. Me, me, me. It's everywhere. That's all that matters anymore. I can't stand living in a world like this. If everyone's just out for their own gain, what's the point of civilization? So, what about you then? You killed all these people tonight because you didn't get what you wanted. How is that not selfish? Well, that's just how it goes, right? "Don't you dare touch me!" she screamed, kicking out with both feet. Her heels slammed into his shins with a sharp crack. He let out a shriek and staggered back. Elizabeth let out a triumphant yell and, in a desperate fury, Bicycle kicked him with all her strength. By pure accident, one of her feet knocked the gun from his hand. It flew into the air and clattered to the floor, vanishing beneath the opposite couch. "Get him!" Elizabeth screamed, launching herself at the intruder like a battering ram. Her head slammed into his midsection, sending them both crashing into the coffee table, the glass top shattering into 1,000 sparkling pieces. He shoved her away, struggling to get back on his feet, but Trent kicked him back down. Trent, losing his balance, fell over the table and rolled onto the broken glass, landing hard on top of the intruder, his weight pinning him down. "Jump on him! Hold him down!" Trent yelled. Jeremy leaned forward, his body straining against the tight zip tie, fighting with every ounce of his strength. A sharp pain flared as the plastic teeth sliced into his skin, but then, with a sharp snap, the tie broke. "My hands are free," he shouted, leaping onto the intruder's back, his numb arms flailing as he pounded at him. Carla and Elizabeth threw their weight onto his legs, holding him down as he thrashed beneath them, roaring in fury like a wild animal. "Jeremy, grab the gun!" Elizabeth cried out. The intruder twisted his body with surprising strength and managed to crawl toward the table. Trent's voice screeched out, "He got me!" Blood poured from a gash across his stomach as he tried to squirm away from the fight. The intruder twisted again and with terrifying precision slashed Jeremy across the neck. The screenwriter pressed his hand tightly over the wound and sprang to his feet. As he tried to flee toward the front door, the intruder slashed him across the leg, causing him to stumble over the couch and awkwardly flip in the process. Blood poured from his neck beneath his hand. Elizabeth and Carla rolled away from the intruder's relentless attacks, scrambling against the couch, begging for their lives. Gasping for air, the intruder smirked. "You nearly had me." He managed to pull himself upright. Elizabeth had managed to crack his shin, but despite the injury, he limped after Jeremy, who was stumbling drunkenly toward the door, blood pouring from his body. The intruder caught up with him at the top of the stairs and shoved him down, sending him tumbling headfirst down the steps. Jeremy's neck snapped on impact. He lay there, watching his blood spread across the marble floor as his vision faded to nothing. The intruder limped back toward Trent, who was writhing on the floor, his intestines spilling from his abdomen. Leaning over him, the intruder grunted, "End of the line. Time to wrap this up." Trent's desperate cries shifted into horrific choking noises as the intruder drove the knife around his neck. Trent looked up, his eyes wide in disbelief, as blood poured from his neck onto the carpet in a steady stream. In moments, his eyes lost their focus and dulled, staring into nothingness. Outside, the voice from the bullhorn echoed, demanding the intruder reconnect the phone. It sounded distant and muffled, as if the world beyond had no connection to the nightmare unfolding inside the condo. The intruder glanced at Elizabeth and Carla, then spat a mouthful of blood on the carpet. And then there were three. "Thank God it's almost over," Elizabeth muttered under her breath. She squeezed her eyes shut. "Don't you dare give yourself up to the cops. Just end it. Blow your brains out and disappear from this world, you worthless piece of shit. That's the plan." The intruder hesitated before turning to Carla. "I guess this won't do much, but you didn't deserve any of this. I'm sorry you got caught up in it." "What about me?" she snapped, her voice trembling. "I didn't even know you existed until after the trailer dropped. What they did to you was disgusting, and I wasn't the only one who thought so." He gave a small, bitter smirk. "Thoughts and prayers, huh? You're a big celebrity now, right? You could have used your power to make the studio do the right thing. What, were they going to take the whole crew to court? I don't think so. But you didn't do anything, did you? You just thought, wow, that sucks. And that was the end of it. That's the real issue here, Liz. Nobody cares about anyone but themselves. Me, me, me. That's all I hear now. I turn on the TV, I tune into the radio, I scroll online, and there it is. Me, me, me. It's everywhere. That's all that matters anymore. I can't stand living in a world like this. If everyone's just out for their own gain, what's the point of civilization? So, what about you then? You killed all these people tonight because you didn't get what you wanted. How is that not selfish? Well, that's just how it goes, right? He winced as he crouched down to grab the gun that had slipped beneath the couch. As he vanished from view, Elizabeth let out a tormented scream and dashed for the window. At that exact moment, something crashed through the glass from the outside and hit the floor. It was a flashbang. It exploded right in her face. A deafening bang and a blinding light followed. Elizabeth's mind was nearly turned to mush by the force of the explosion, and her once radiant face was burned to the bone. She collapsed backward, dropping to the floor like a stone. Carla found herself huddled on the floor, her head ringing painfully. She tried to call for help, but her voice was almost inaudible. The intruder stumbled into her line of sight and shouted something, but his words were swallowed up by the relentless ringing in her ears. Carla struggled to rise, but waves of nausea hit her, and her head throbbed as though it had been split open. Her vision was a blur, distorted by the after effects of the flashbang. She squinted at the hazy figure of the intruder, recognizing the gun in his hand. Carla fought against the zip tie that bound her wrists and screamed, "Don't do it! Just put it down and let them take you." At that moment, both entrances were breached, and SWAT officers flooded in from both sides. The intruder spun to face them, lifting his gun. Carla watched as his body was torn apart by gunfire. When the shooting stopped, she stumbled toward him across the blood-soaked carpet and collapsed beside him. The officers were shouting orders at her, but she couldn't hear a thing. The world had shrunk to a tight focus on the intruder, twitching like a fish stranded on dry land in a pool of his own blood. The gun was nowhere in sight. It had been lost under the couch. Instead, he was holding a TV remote. It slipped from his hand, and as the light faded from his eyes, he silently mouthed one final word, "Boom!" And just like that, he was gone. Carla was suddenly yanked to her feet by a pair of cold, indifferent hands. She screamed in agony and struggled against their grip, dragging her feet along the floor as they pulled her outside. She was the last one left, the only one who had survived, and she couldn't bear the thought of leaving the others behind. Carla kept screaming as they loaded her into the ambulance. She screamed until the sedatives took over, and then she silently screamed in her dreams. For the rest of her life, beneath the glaring sun, a part of her would always be screaming, because the darkness is always waiting for us, and when hope fades, the shadows will devour you. It's freezing in there, my friends, and it's suffocatingly dark. So dark. So very, very dark. Hey, everyone, I hope your day is going well. Just a quick note. I want to give a shout out to T.W. Grimm, the author of this story. He has a new book out titled Bonesaw Vic's Cryptozoological Gardens Volume 1, which is now available on Amazon. I'll drop a link to it in the description and pinned comment. Additionally, this is part of a series that Mr. Creepypasta has been working on for a while now, the Bonesaw Vic series. I'll also link to his playlist if you're interested in checking it out. As for this particular story, I really enjoyed it because it was different from the usual ones I cover. This one had quite a large cast, and I think the guest voices of Owen and Nate really nailed their roles. Honestly, I think everyone did a fantastic job, especially TJ. This story had so much emotion, and it was a blast to work on. There wasn't as much sound design in this one, as it mainly focused on the dialogue, but I think it still built a lot of suspense. It did a great job of building tension, and I really enjoyed it. As some of you know, I've been traveling a bit this month to visit family. There have been a few family events, and I've got one more coming up next week. I just want to thank you all for being so patient with the uploads. I know they've been a little inconsistent and much less frequent than usual lately, but I'm still working on some longer projects, and I hope to wrap those up soon. With the next family trip, I'll be gone for about a week, but I've got a couple of compilations lined up to post during that time. If you have any suggestions for the types of compilations you'd like to see, feel free to let me know. I know a few of you have asked for a compilation of my favorite stories, and I'm considering doing that. I think it's a great idea, but if there's a specific theme you want to see, just let me know. With that said, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend,